Welcome back tonight. We're going somewhere beautiful, diseased, and profoundly damp. You won't just hear about history, you'll become part of it. It's the late 15th century, and you are a working girl in Naples. Not the kind with contracts or lunch breaks, the kind with syphilis and a sore that pulses like a second heartbeat. Forget the frescoes, forget the Medici, forget whatever HBO told you about the Renaissance. This is mildew in your hair, clients with coin-shaped lesions, and a mattress that has never once been dry. You're not just living in this world. You're sharing a tin mirror with a woman who coughs pink and a roommate who just sold your shoes for garlic. The good news, you're alive. The bad news, so is your rash. But don't worry. Your odds of surviving the week are just low enough to keep things interesting, assuming you don't get dragged away by the Inquisition first. Like and subscribe. If your fingers haven't turned green between the knuckles, drop a comment. What time is it? What's the last thing you ate? Bonus points if it wasn't half a fig already chewed by a child. Now, dim the lights. Wrap yourself in a wool blanket that smells faintly of fish and vinegar, and maybe keep a rat nearby, just for realism. You wake up. It's 1495. Someone's shouting whore across the alley, and your left eye is crusted shut. Congratulations, you're still breathing. Let's see how long that lasts. You wake up to the sound of chewing. Not birdsong, not church bells, just chewing. Specifically, something gnawing on the wooden beam above your head. Probably a rat. Possibly your roommate's last toe. You roll over. Bad idea. Your hip cracks like old bread, and the straw mattress greets you with a fresh puff of mildew and regrets. Someone peed in this corner again. Hopefully not you. Probably that new girl, the one with the twitch. You blink toward the sliver of light leaking through the boards. Morning. Again. Against all odds, you've survived the night. You and the itchy red spot climbing your thigh. Next to you, Lucia coughs into a rag. It comes up pink. You pretend not to notice. Your other roommate, Mariella, snores like a drowning goat. She's smiling in her sleep. That's how you know it's a dream. No one smiles for real around here. Not since the French disease showed up and decided to vacation in every groin between Florence and Naples. You sit up. The room tilts. You steady yourself on the wall, which is damp and suspiciously warm. You smell your hair, mold, wine, and something vaguely fishy. Nice. That'll sell well to the dock workers. You pull on yesterday's dress, because there is no today's dress. It's wrinkled, stained, and split at the hip. You tell yourself it's ventilation. Your shoes are gone. Lucia probably traded them for garlic, which would have been fine if she hadn't eaten the garlic and coughed directly into your face. No time for rage. You have work to do. Your body is your business, and business, unfortunately, is always open. You open the door. Cold air rushes in, along with the scent of vomit, sweat, and fish stew that's been stewing since Tuesday. Someone shouts, "Whore!" across the alley. You give them a curtsy. They spit anyway, and so begins another Renaissance morning. The art is lovely. The ceilings are painted. But your mattress smells like wet hay and generational trauma. Congratulations. You made it to breakfast. Barely. You stand in front of the mirror. It's not really a mirror, just a piece of polished tin nailed to a plank. But it's shiny enough to reflect your face, and that's already more honesty than most men offer. There are 2 dresses on the hook. One is red. It has a tear up the side and a mystery stain that glows faintly in candlelight. The other is brown, stiff with sweat, and smells like someone tried to boil cabbage in it. You pick the red one, at least it screams confidence. Also, it matches your rash. No corset today. The last time you wore one, it cut off circulation to your ribs, and you blacked out in a confession booth. You still haven't lived that down. The priest won't look you in the eye. Then again, he probably shouldn't. You smear ash and pig fat on your cheeks for color. Technically, it's makeup. Realistically, it's a fire hazard. Your lips? Charcoal and spit. You pucker at the mirror. You look like a tired ghost pretending to be alive. Perfect. You pull your hair back with a piece of twine that used to tie sausages. It still smells like meat. Honestly, not the worst perfume you've worn. You check your feet. Still bare, still slightly green between the toes. You shrug and grab a pair of borrowed clogs. 2 sizes too big. 1 nail loose in the heel. It clicks when you walk, like a judgmental metronome. Outside, the street is awake. Vendors yelling. Dogs fighting. Someone vomiting into a gutter. A nun scowls at you as you pass. You smile and blow her a kiss. The shoemaker's apprentice whistles at you. He has 4 teeth and 1 eyebrow. You wink anyway. Gotta keep the clients warm. The city smells like rotting onions and hot metal. You blend right in. You head toward the bridge where the sailors dock. Their coin is filthy, but it spends the same. Also, they don't ask questions. Especially once the wine starts flowing. A little boy tugs your sleeve and offers you a fig. You thank him, then realize it's already been half-eaten. You still eat it. Breakfast is breakfast. Your day hasn't even started, and you're already bleeding from somewhere new. Welcome to your Renaissance glow-up. You're dressed. You're diseased. You're ready. Your first client of the day is already drunk. It's not even noon. Impressive, really. He stumbles out of a cart wearing velvet sleeves and a smile with too many gaps. He claims to be a merchant. You assume he sells bad decisions and inherited shame. He kisses your hand. You notice his fingernails are black at the base. You tell yourself, it's ink. You tell yourself that a lot. You lead him behind the bakery, where the yeast masks most smells, except his. He smells like money and decay. A nobleman, probably. He slurs something about his wife not understanding him. You nod. They never do, apparently. All these wives, not understanding how to ignore a boil the size of a plum on their husband's inner thigh. He hands you 2 silver coins. 1 is sticky. You don't ask why. You just wipe it on your skirt and tuck it away. It's quick. Not painless, but quick. You adjust your bodice and walk back into the street. Your hip aches. Your pride died 2 winters ago during the lice outbreak. You pass the chapel. Inside, it smells like incense and absolution. You kneel. You whisper your sins into the wooden screen. The priest on the other side sighs. He knows your voice too well. He tells you to pray 10 Hail Marys and drink less wine. You nod, then go back out and do exactly what you always do, because forgiveness is free, but living costs everything. By the time the bells toll for mid-morning prayer, you've seen 3 more clients. 1 cried, 1 bled, 1 tried to pay you with cheese. You took it. You deserve better. You know that, but you also know better than to expect it. As you sit in the alley, eating that terrible cheese, you spot a new rash on your ankle. You poke it. It oozes. You sigh. Another day. Another symptom. You'll deal with it tomorrow. If you're still breathing, it's midday. You know this because the sun is directly overhead, roasting the top of your head like an overcooked goose. Also, Your stomach has begun its daily performance. The symphony of empty things. You search for food. Search being generous. You dig through a basket under the stairs in the brothel's back room, next to the place where someone once swore a cat gave birth to a snake. Inside the basket, one rock posing as a loaf of bread. A pear-shaped blob you pray is cheese but suspect is soap. Half a fig, possibly pre-chewed. You pick the bread. You don't bite it so much as gnaw it like a dying beaver. Your gums bleed. That's normal now. Lucia walks by and throws you a wink. Her left eye twitches. Her lips are cracked. You ask if she's eaten. She says yes, then vomits into a bucket and says, "Mostly." Across the alley, a butcher's apprentice is spitting into the street and fanning flies away from meat that should have retired last week. You stare at the hanging carcasses. They look better than you do. At least they're already dead. A group of boys runs past, yelling something about devils in the drains. You believe them. You find a corner in the shade. It smells like fish guts and desperation, but at least it's out of the sun. You sit, you chew, you try to remember what fresh bread tastes like. You fail. A woman approaches. She's wrapped in black, face veiled. She hands you a bowl of something warm. You blink at her. She doesn't speak, just leaves the bowl and walks away. Inside, mushy lentils, boiled barley, maybe a bone fragment. You eat like it's a royal feast. You cry a little. Then you wonder if it's a trap. Then you shrug. If it kills you, that's one less rent payment. As you eat, a man in priest's robes sits beside you. He doesn't say anything for a while, just breathes. Then he whispers, "You can repent any time." You whisper back, "Can I also get seconds?" He leaves. The sun keeps burning. The bread keeps cutting. The flies are winning. A rooster tries to mount a duck in the middle of the street. Nobody stops it. You finish the bowl. It was mostly water, but warm water, which now qualifies as a miracle. You burp. It tastes like sorrow and onion. Someone screams down the block. Another body hits the ground. You don't flinch. You wipe your mouth with your sleeve, stand up, and stretch until your spine pops like a rotten grape. It's lunchtime. You survived it. Barely. But don't worry. The afternoon is so much worse. You decide to go to church. Not because you're feeling holy, but because it's the only building in the district that smells less like fermented shame. Also, it has benches. Benches are luxury. You hobble across the square, past a man painting a saint's face on the wall. The saint is weeping blood. You relate. A nun stops you at the church door. She looks at your shoes, your dress, your entire existence, then gestures silently toward the back pews. That's where people like you go. The unblessables, the woman who had 3 stillborns, the boy with boils on his face, the man who talks to birds and once married a goat. You take your seat. The wood creaks under your weight, which is impressive since you've lost 5 pounds this week from sweating and existential dread. You cross yourself, out of habit or out of hope. At this point, who can tell? The priest steps up. He's young, too young to have opinions, yet somehow already thinks you're going to hell. He starts the sermon. Something about sin, modesty, obedience, something about the fall of women. You stop listening when he uses the word plague and makes eye contact. A woman in front of you coughs once. 5 heads turn. 2 people shuffle away. The sermon continues. A baby cries. You envy it. Crying is still socially acceptable at that age. The man next to you mumbles a prayer. You think he's asking for forgiveness, or possibly for death. The priest now points toward the heavens, voice rising. He declares, "This plague is God's punishment. The sinners will perish. The righteous will endure." You check your fingers. They're trembling again, but only slightly. A child stares at you from across the aisle. You wave. He hides behind his mother. She glares like you farted during communion. Someone coughs again. This time it's you. You feel a dozen eyes. Not eyes of compassion, eyes of calculation, as if measuring your distance, estimating your expiry date. You shift in your seat. The pew groans. You whisper a prayer. "Dear God, if I die, make it quiet, and preferably not while mid-sneeze." The bell rings, mass ends. No one says amen. They just scatter like pigeons avoiding a bucket. You leave the church. Souls blistered, soul untouched. Behind you, the priest blesses a nobleman. He's red in the face, sweating through his silks. No one mentions it. You get a muttered slut and a child throwing crumbs at you. You're not even sure if that's a metaphor. It's midday. You tried to repent, or at least sit still for 40 minutes. And for that, you will now be rewarded with more judgment, more sweating, and probably another rash. Praise be. The message arrives on a scrap of linen. One word, urgente. No punctuation, just the lingering smell of vinegar and perfume, which can only mean one thing. A rich man is dying, and he wants company. You sigh. You were hoping for a nap, or at least a quiet hour to inspect that new blister on your tongue. Instead, you head to the villa on the hill, the one with real windows and fake morals. The doorman doesn't speak, just opens the gate and looks at you like you're a storm cloud made of sin. Inside, it's too clean, too quiet, too floral. You know what that means. Covering up the scent of something worse, you're led to a room that looks like it's never been touched by poverty or reality. Silk drapes, gilded mirrors, and in the center, on a mattress soft enough to make you weep, lies your client, Count Ludovico. Age, unknown. Wealth, obscene. Health, the reason you now carry cloves in your pocket. He tries to sit up when he sees you, but mostly just twitches. His face is a patchwork of sores and privilege. One eye is sealed shut. The other is ambitious. "Come closer," he rasps. You do, because you need the coin. Because you've already crossed every line that mattered. He talks about love, about death, about how his wife hasn't touched him since Easter. You nod sympathetically, though you suspect she's just trying to avoid infection and or murder charges. He reaches for your hand, misses, touches your knee instead. You smile, business smile, dead-eyed, soft-lipped, spiritually bankrupt. The act itself is mercifully brief, a combination of weak lungs, shallow breath, and divine intervention. After, he hands you a pouch of coins. Heavy. You raise an eyebrow. "Hazard pay," he wheezes. You consider curtsying, but your knees are already threatening mutiny. You stand, you straighten your dress. You glance at the silver mirror on the wall and catch a glimpse of your own face. Your cheeks are pale, your eyes tired, your lips cracked, dry, bleeding in the corner. Count Ludovico says something about seeing you again. You say, "God willing." But both of you know he probably isn't. As you leave the villa, the maid hands you a rose. Fresh, fragrant, still dewy. You blink. A gift? A thank you? No, a distraction. By the time you make it back to the brothel, your wrist is burning. Not metaphorically, literally. There's a new sore, round, red, angry. You stare at it. It stares back. You could cry. But you already did that last week, and it didn't help. So you pour vinegar on it, bite your tongue, and get ready for the evening shift, because noblemen might die, but desire never does. The sun is melting behind the rooftops. Everything turns orange, which sounds poetic, until you remember it's mostly smoke from the tanneries and burning rags. You head to the communal washroom. Room is generous. It's a wooden tub behind a crumbling tavern, shared by 14 women, 3 orphans, and at least 1 stray goat. You strip down. You don't flinch anymore when the cold water hits. You only flinch when it doesn't, because that means someone else used the last bucket. The water is brown. With things floating, you pretend it's herbs. You rub yourself with a rag stiff enough to qualify as weaponry. No soap, just ashes, vinegar, and denial. You scrub your arms, your thighs. You avoid the wrist. The sore is growing. It pulses when you move. It has its own agenda now. Lucia joins you, humming a tune from when she still had teeth. She jokes that you look thinner. You joke that she looks alive. Both of you are lying. Mariella tries to braid her hair. It comes out in clumps. She laughs. You all do. It's either that or screaming. You dry off with a cloth that smells like onions. Then put on your cleanest dress, meaning the one with fewer holes and only one bloodstain you can't explain. You reapply your cosmetics, ash for eyes, spit for shine, confidence for camouflage. Your reflection in the puddle says, "You are not fine." You say, "But I am functioning." Back inside the brothel. The candles are lit, not for ambiance, just to mask the stench. There's already a man passed out on the couch. He's snoring. You check his coin pouch. Empty. Figures. You sit by the fire. Someone's cooking broth made from bones and prayer. You pass on it. You still have half a turnip from Tuesday. You poke the sore. It winces. You poke your chest. Still rising, still falling, not dead yet. Which is, technically, good news. You think of leaving town, running, finding a convent, becoming invisible. But then you remember the convent turned away. Mariella said her soul was too soiled. They said it with a smile. So instead, you tighten your bodice, straighten your back, and whisper to your reflection, "You're still here. You're still here. You're still here." Because sometimes survival is the loudest prayer you can offer. You hear his voice before you see him. Low, slurred, drenched in wine and misplaced confidence. The voice of a man who thinks coins erase consequences. "Bellissima," he purrs, pushing open the brothel door like he owns it. Technically, he owns the bakery down the road, but emotionally, he owns nothing. Not his actions, not his children, and definitely not his zipper. You turn away, pretend to rearrange the candle stubs. It never works. He always finds you. "Why do you run from me?" he slurs, approaching with the grace of a drunk goat. You smile the smile that keeps you fed. Tired, flat, practiced. "I don't run," you say. "I just avoid slow-moving disasters." He laughs, coughs. Something wet hits your cheek. You wipe it before deciding what it was. He pulls a flower from his coat. A rose, crushed, wilted, thornless. "For you," he says proudly. It smells like sweat and perfume from somewhere you don't want to imagine. You take it, because not taking it means bruises, because sometimes flowers are cheaper than safety. "I'm leaving her," he whispers. Same promise as last week. And the week before that, his wife, blessed woman, has been left 12 times. She still bakes him dinner. "She doesn't understand me," he adds. You nod, because you've learned that agreeing is faster than arguing and cheaper than bleeding. He touches your face. His fingers are hot, Too hot. You spot it now, on his neck. A sore, small, red throbbing. You step back. He steps forward. "Don't you miss me?" he asks. You want to scream. I miss health. I miss safety. I miss not fearing your breath. But instead, you say, "Only when you're gone." It doesn't land. He laughs anyway. Then he says the one sentence that drains the last drop of humor from your bloodstream. You should be grateful. No one else wants you. Silence. Even the fire stops crackling for a beat. Then you do something unwise. You look him in the eye, and you say very softly, "I know, that's why you keep coming back." He doesn't like that, but he doesn't hit you. This time, instead, he spits near your foot and stumbles out, muttering something about ungrateful witches. You watch him go. Watch his back fade into the dark like a bad decision. The rose is still in your hand. You drop it into the fire. It smokes, hisses, turns black. You exhale. One less lie to carry. It's late now. Too late for clients. Too early for nightmares. The brothel is quiet. Quiet in that eerie, breath-holding kind of way. Like the walls are listening. Like the air is bracing. You sit by the fire, threading your last unbroken ribbon through the hem of your dress. Not because you care how it looks, but because your fingers need something to do besides shake. Then comes the knock. Not a drunk knock. Not a desperate knock. No slurring. No giggling. No clinking of coins. Just 3 short, precise taps. Like punctuation. Someone opens the door. Gasps. You don't need to look up. You already know. The Inquisition, 2 men enter first, cloaked in black, faces blank as tombs. Behind them, a third, the one who doesn't blink. He wears a cross the size of a hammer in a robe that swallows the candlelight around him. He scans the room like he's memorizing a crime scene or deciding who will still be breathing tomorrow. Someone, Lucia maybe, tries to greet them. "Brothers," she starts. "Can we?" "Silence," says the one in the middle. That's it. Just the word. Like a blade through bread. He opens a ledger. Your name is in it. You know it is. You don't know how it got there. He reads aloud. Frequent contact with the afflicted. Known association with foreign sailors. Observed entering sacred space while visibly unclean. Persistent. Defiance of social order. Each line cuts like vinegar on an open wound. You stand up, slowly, as if not standing might delay the inevitable. He looks at you, not your face, your throat, as if judgment begins at the pulse. He steps closer. No smile, no threat, just certainty. You want to speak, but you can already feel how useless words are here. They're not here for truth. They're here for pattern, and you fit it. Finally, he says, "You are under consideration. Not guilty, not innocent. Just being watched." You nod, not because you accept it, but because your body has learned the shape of survival. They leave. No fire, no dragging, no scream. Just the cold draft that trails behind them. The door closes. Someone sobs. No one comforts them. You sit back down. The ribbon in your lap is still in your hand, still unthreaded. Your name is in a book, and that book is in the hands of men who burn things. Maybe not tonight, maybe not you, but someone. You lie down on the floor, not your mattress, just the floor. No prayers, just breath, and the familiar ache of being noticed. For all the wrong reasons. You wake up because someone is screaming. It's not a dramatic scream. No tearing at clothes, no clutching at chests. Just raw, animal sound, like something caught between worlds. You open your eyes. It's dark, too dark, even for this time of night. The fire is out. The window is black. The moon forgot to show up. You sit up. Slowly, carefully, your body protests, as it always does. Each joint stiff with memory, each breath measured like currency. In the hallway, you hear feet shuffling, not walking, dragging. Mariella appears in the doorway. Her shift is soaked with sweat. Her eyes, glassy. Her voice, a whisper trying not to break. Lucia's gone, she says. You blink. Gone doesn't mean what it used to. It used to mean someone moved. Now it means they stopped. You walk down the hallway. You don't want to, but you do. Lucia is lying on her cot. Still warm, maybe. But still, her mouth is open. Her eyes are closed, but not peacefully. Her hands are tucked under her chest, like she was trying to hold something in. You kneel beside her. You don't cry. You're past that. You just press 2 fingers to her wrist. Nothing. She was coughing earlier. She was always coughing. You thought she'd last longer. She made good soup. Mariella wraps the body in a sheet, not out of ceremony, out of habit. You help. You don't say a prayer. You just hum a tune. Lucia once hummed when she was braiding your hair. It was off-key, but comforting. Someone else enters the room. It's the landlady. She sees the sheet, nods. No questions. No condolences. Just take her out back before the carts arrive. You carry the body, what's left of Lucia, through the alley. The street smells like smoke, wet ash, and rot. In the yard behind the brothel, there's a pile. Bodies. At least 4. One is still twitching. You add Lucia to the pile, gently, because dignity is free and cruelty is crowded. You head back inside. You pass a girl vomiting into a bucket. Her nose is bleeding. You hand her a rag. She thanks you like you just gave her a future. Back in your room, you wash your hands in cold water. There's a crack in your fingernail that won't stop stinging. You ignore it, like everything else. You look at the sore on your wrist. It's bigger, angrier. It pulses in sync with your heartbeat, like it's keeping score. Mariella lies down beside you. You don't speak. She's shaking. You give her your blanket. It smells like vinegar and sleep. In the distance, you hear the sound of wheels. Wooden, rusty, slow. The carts have arrived to collect the day. Someone coughs again. Someone always does. You close your eyes. Pretend you're far away. Not better, just distant. Somewhere without lists, without sores, without screams in the dark. And tomorrow, if you wake up, you'll do it all again. Unless someone adds your name to the pile. You lie down on the floor. Not the cot. Lucia died on a cot today, and you don't want to tempt symmetry. The floor is cold, not refreshingly cold. Bone-deep cold. The kind that sinks into your ribs and whispers, "Let's see how long you last." Your back aches. Your legs tingle. Your wrist? Still throbbing? Still blooming into something that no one will name out loud. Mariella is asleep beside you. Or unconscious. Either way, she's quiet. You listen to the rats in the wall, to the distant creak of wagon wheels, to someone praying 2 rooms over, too softly for God to hear. The blanket you have is thin, threadbare, but it still carries the faint scent of rosemary soap from a client 2 weeks ago. That was a good night. He didn't bleed. He didn't cry. He paid. You stare at the ceiling. It leaks, always has. You once imagined it was crying with you. Now it just drips. You close your eyes. You open them again. Sleep is not easy when the body doesn't trust the air it breathes. Your thoughts drift. To Lucia's laugh, to the red dress you once had before it was stolen, to the man who promised to save you. He now sells sheep in Florence. You hope the sheep are smarter than you were. You try to count breaths. 1, still here. 2, still here. You reach for your stomach, still flat, still aching, still waiting for something that isn't coming. You whisper to yourself, "You made it through the day." Then you add, "For what though?" No answer. The wind howls through the shutter cracks. A cat screeches in the alley. Something breaks downstairs. No one checks. You roll onto your side, face to the wall. You curl into yourself, a shape smaller than your grief. And finally, your body goes limp, not from peace, just from exhaustion. No dreams, just flickers, faces, fire, the sound of your name being called and never answered. You sleep, if you can call it that, and outside. The city sighs. Another night, another count, another girl who wasn't the knight, or the queen, or the poet. But she kept going, and maybe, just maybe, that's enough. You wake up to a strange sensation, not light. There is no light. The sun has forgotten your village. No, what wakes you is a twitching, prickling pressure against your ankle. You kick instinctively, and the mouse squeals, offended, then disappears into the straw. Congratulations. You've just assaulted your breakfast. You're lying in mud. Not mud tracked in, no, this is indoor mud. Floor mud. Permanent resident mud. It's been here longer than you have. You sit up. Your back cracks like a frozen branch. Your breath fogs, then hovers, refusing to leave the room. The draft slips in through the hole in the roof you fixed last year with a dead goose and divine optimism. Now it's just a dead goose and regret. Someone nearby is wheezing, loud, wet. It's your uncle or your grandfather. You honestly don't remember anymore. He just never left the corner after winter 3 years ago. Sometimes he mutters to the wall. You all let him. You try to stand. Bad idea. Your left foot sinks deeper into something not quite dirt. Is it dung? Is it soup? It doesn't matter. It's cold, it's damp, and it's yours now. You shuffle to the wall, your version of morning exercise, and pull on your only tunic, a masterpiece of holes, itch, and what might once have been brown. You sniff it, still wearable, which means it only smells slightly worse than your blanket. You glance at your family, bundled together like mismatched turnips. Your wife is somewhere in there, coughing. Your children are somewhere under her, snoring like pigs. And one of them, probably Freya, kicked the piss pot again. There's a trail. It's warm, lovely. The rooster crows outside. Or maybe it's choking. Hard to tell these days. You step out into the cold air, if only to escape the smell of other people existing. Welcome to your morning. Not holy. Not hopeful. Just slightly better than being dead. You head to the fire pit. Calling it a kitchen would be generous. Calling it a pit would be optimistic. A few embers blink at you with all the enthusiasm of a dying toad. You poke them with a stick you pretended was a sword when you were 12. It's still a stick. You reach for the pot, not a real pot. Half a helmet, donated by the last man who thought conscription was a promotion. Inside, breakfast, also known as yesterday's regret. It's pottage, 6 days old, maybe 7. It wobbles when you stir it. You found a feather in it once. You didn't remove it. Extra texture. You ladle some into a cracked bowl. If you tap it wrong, it leaks. If you breathe near it, it cracks more. Your youngest shuffles in, hair like hay, eyes like sorrow. She says, "I had a dream we ate bread." You nod solemnly. I had that dream too. But it was 3 winters ago, and the bread was stolen by a dog with 1 leg and divine speed. You hand her the bowl. She eats in silence, because talking wastes energy, and energy is food, And food is a memory. You take your own sip. It tastes like betrayal, soil, and maybe turnip. Maybe you chew something that shouldn't need chewing. It crunches. You don't ask. Outside, your neighbor yells that his cow has died. Again, same cow, new name, still dead. You stare into your bowl. The soup stares back. Breakfast is over. You feel full, but not of food. Full of dread. Full of aching teeth and questions like, is this still better than plague? Spoiler, barely. You rinse your bowl with snow. You don't dry it. The wind will do that. Or freeze it solid. Same difference. Then with one deep, joyless breath, it's time to go work the frozen field. You grab your hoe. Not a good one. The handle is splintered, and the metal head is rusted into what might generously be called a triangle. It's less tool and more vague suggestion of labor. You walk past the well, still frozen. You consider licking it for hydration. You consider not. The field greets you with silence, the kind of silence that says, nothing will grow here, and we both know it. You stab the earth anyway. The whack. Your back cracks again. The whack. Your fingers bleed a little. The whack. You hit something. You think it's a root. It's not. It's a shoe. Still attached to someone. You bury it back out of respect or laziness. By mid-morning, the wind picks up. Not a breeze. Not refreshing. This is the kind of wind that exfoliates your soul. You pause to breathe, but the air smells like dead cabbage and communal despair. A priest passes by on a donkey. He blesses your land, then asks if you've tithed this month. You hand him 2 shriveled beets and a sorry look. He says, God tests the faithful. You say, then I must be the final exam. He doesn't laugh. The sun almost peeks out, then reconsiders. Back behind clouds it goes, like a debtor ducking a landlord. You dig deeper. You sweat, but not enough to feel human. Just enough to feel itchy. Your wife waves at you from the house. Or maybe she's swatting a fly. Hard to say. You wonder if lunch is ready. Then you remember. Lunch is just breakfast, rebranded. Your hand slips. The hoe slices your boot. You bleed. A little, good. At least it proves you're still alive. And just like that, morning ends. Not with a bell. Not with a song. But with the quiet sigh of a man whose stomach and shovel are both equally empty. It's midday. Or as midday as it gets in this God-forsaken, cloud-blanketed, frost-bitten excuse for a season. The sun is somewhere up there, but it's just implied, like the concept of fairness. Or summer, you're still in the field, because the field is where people like you stay, digging, scraping, bleeding into the same soil that's already swallowed your seeds, your hopes, and most of your extended family. Your fingers no longer feel like fingers. They feel like regrets wrapped in burlap. You shove your hands under your armpits, trying to trick your body into believing in warmth. It doesn't fall for it. Your boots squelch as you move. Not because it rained. No, because your left boot has become its own biome, a tiny, damp, fungal civilization, one that may outlive you. A wind picks up. It doesn't just slap your face. It questions your life choices. It seeps into your bones, then takes up residence. You look over and see your wife. She's kneeling in the dirt, using her hands to till where your tools broke last week. Her scarf is frozen to her lip. She doesn't complain. She doesn't blink much anymore either. Your neighbor Ulrich lets out a grunt and falls backward into the snow. No one checks. He might be praying or dead. Either way, it's quiet now. Then, hoofbeats, you look up. A nobleman rides into view, wrapped in furs thick enough to stuff a mattress. riding a horse so clean, you briefly believe it's a hallucination. But no, the stink of perfume confirms he's real. He surveys the field like he's inspecting failed soup. Working hard? He asks, smiling like it's a joke. You nod, because sarcasm isn't a luxury you can afford. Sarcasm is for people with meat. He tosses something, you brace for a rock, but it's an apple core, soft, bitten, still wet. You catch it. Instinct, hunger, reflex. You almost say thank you. Then you remember your cousin died, thanking a lord last year. The lord sneezed and galloped off. The cousin got flogged for sarcasm. The nobleman leaves. You stare at the apple core. It's more food than you've seen all week. It smells like someone else's happiness. You tear it in two, hand half to your son. He doesn't smile. He just eats. He says, "I thought this year would be better." You nod, not because you agree, but because you don't know how to tell him otherwise. The ground is still frozen. Your stomach still hurts. Your wife's cough still cuts the air like a cracked bell. But the digging must continue, because the alternative is thinking. And you're too tired for thoughts. Midday drags on, not like time, like a bad leg. And the field keeps swallowing everything, except your suffering, that it spits back up. Every single day. You enter the house like a soldier returning from the war, except the enemy is mud, and you lost. The door, always dramatic, lets out a slow groan. It echoes through the room, announcing your return with more ceremony than your wedding did. That ceremony had 3 goats, 1 priest, and no bread. The inside is familiar, a combination of smoke, damp wool, boiled regret, and something you hope is only cabbage. Your family is piled in a heap near the hearth. It used to be a bed, then it became a storage pile. Now it's a heat trap. 7 souls, 2.5 blankets, 1 unconscious uncle, and the baby someone forgot to name. You collapse next to your wife. She hands you a cup of something. It's warm. Smells faintly of bark, feet, and hope. It's tea, or at least her version of it. Boiled moss with a splash of desperation. You sip it like it's wine. Your youngest tugs your sleeve. "Papa, can we eat the goat?" You blink. You don't own a goat. You ate the goat. Last spring. On a Sunday. She's probably hallucinating again. You stroke her hair and say the official family motto. Maybe tomorrow. Then the real hunger kicks in. Not the poetic kind. Not my heart yearns kind. The kind that knots your stomach and whispers, "What if we boiled the boots?" You crawl to the soup pot. It's not much of a pot. It's half a helmet from a war no one remembers. Inside, the stew. It's not stew. It's a concept, mostly water, with fragments of old turnip, traces of bark, and a floating speck of meat someone swears is real. You ladle it into cracked bowls. By ladle, we mean wooden spoon with half a handle. By bowl, we mean mugs once used for lice combs. Everyone eats. No one speaks, except your cousin, who says, "Tastes better than yesterday." He's wrong. But you nod anyway, because lying is an act of kindness, then like a silent omen. You see it. The bucket. In the corner, where it waits, a wooden pail darkened by history and sins. It holds everything the family no longer does. Physically, emotionally, philosophically. The baby starts fussing. Your grandmother shoos you. You know what that means. It's your turn. You rise like a condemned man. You carry the bucket behind the curtain. Well, the curtain used to be a curtain. Now it's just a sheet stiff from use and mystery stains. You squat. You regret every meal you've ever eaten. The wood beneath you creaks. The draft finds places you didn't know you had. Then, relief, but not satisfaction. Never satisfaction. You wipe with straw. It scratches and whispers to you. You chose this life. You seal the bucket, carefully, reverently. You slide it to the corner, but your uncle sneezes, violently, and knocks it over. Pandora weeps. It spills, not just contents, identity. The scent colonizes the room like it pays rent. Everyone reacts. Your wife gags. Your cousin faints. The baby laughs. Your grandmother just mutters, "Third time this week." You clean it. With the family rag, the one used for everything. Soup, blood, and now, this. You scrub in silence, because this isn't the worst part of your day. It's just the part that makes everything else feel slightly less bad. Once it's clean, you collapse back into the heap. Someone hands you a lukewarm rock for warmth. You accept it, gratefully. Outside, the frost creeps up the window. Inside, your family clings to each other, not out of love, but because shared body heat is cheaper than firewood. And somewhere in the shadows, the bucket sits, silent, waiting. Tomorrow, it will be your turn again, and the day after that, and the one after that, until the bucket wins. A bell rings, not melodious, not majestic, just a rusty clang that sounds like someone hitting a pot out of boredom. It's time for the midday sermon. Your village believes in structure. Starve in the morning, pray at noon, freeze by night. You shuffle outside, joining the slow-moving procession of peasants. Each person walks like their joints have signed a ceasefire, but not a peace treaty. Someone coughs behind you. You don't turn around. You already know who it is. You also know it's getting worse. The chapel is really just a roof nailed onto hope and moss. There are no pews, no altar, just mud, and a priest with more opinions than teeth. Father Edric stands at the front, arms raised to a sky that has never once listened. He's wearing 4 layers of wool, 2 gloves, and a look of spiritual constipation. The man knows suffering, mostly because he watches it, not because he lives it. He opens his sermon with a classic, "Children of the frost, this is not punishment, it is purification." You blink. Your stomach growls so loudly, someone flinches. Edric continues, "God tests the faithful, and he has tested us with mold, with rot, and with rats." Your cousin whispers, "He forgot about Aunt Gerta." You all pause for a beat. Aunt Gerta did, in fact, give everyone worms last Lent, unintentionally, still counts. Edric drones on. He speaks of humility, of virtue and obedience, of the sacred beauty of hunger. You wonder if he's ever skipped a meal. He doesn't look like it. You shift on your feet. The ground is wet. Your socks are wet. Your soul is wet. Edric raises a fist dramatically. "This suffering brings us closer to heaven." Someone next to you mutters, "Then heaven better have bread." You nod. Blasphemy has never felt more justified. Then Edric surprises you. He pulls a cloth-wrapped object from his robe. It's a loaf of bread. Actual bread. Round, soft, not made of bark. Gasps, murmurs, tears even. He holds it up like the Holy Grail. Says it's a symbol. Then he eats it, alone, slowly. He chews each bite like he's devouring salvation. You count 17 chews. No one else gets any. You think about charging him. You think about the bucket. You think about morality. Then you remember your legs hurt too much. So you stand, and you listen, and you pretend you're full of the Holy Spirit instead of actual rage. The sermon ends. Edric blesses the air and walks back to his home. A hut with a real fire, real bread, and possibly a bed that doesn't bite. The villagers scatter. Silently, like ghosts after an exorcism. You walk home, not because you feel inspired, but because the sermon is over. And there's nothing else to distract you from being cold. No miracles, no food. Just another reminder that salvation is always just one prayer away. And 2 meals short, the sky bruises purple as the day collapses in on itself. No sunset, just an absence of light. Like someone forgot to turn the century on. You return to the house. Your boots are heavier, not from mud. Those dried hours ago, from disappointment. The door greets you with a creak so familiar, you've begun to harmonize with it. Inside, everyone's already sitting. Not gathered, just arranged. Around the pit that used to be a fireplace and is now more metaphor than function. You nod at no one. No one nods back. It's not rudeness. It's survival. Your cousin has the pot. You don't ask what's inside, because the answer is always, yes, he announces, with the pride of a man unveiling a feast. We have dinner. You approach, like it might attack. Attack. He ladles out soup, though ladle is generous. It's the broken handle of a spoon tied to a stick with sadness. He pours it into your bowl, which used to be a bowl. Now it's a cracked piece of ceramic held together by dried porridge and prayer. You look down. It's water, tinted, just enough to suggest it once touched a vegetable. There's something floating in it. Could be a leaf, could be a bug. You eat it anyway, because that's what we do here. We consume the unnameable and call it tradition. You slurp slowly, not out of politeness, out of strategy. Stretch the illusion of fullness. Make it last. Your daughter whispers, I think it's turnip today. You smile, not because it is, but because she still remembers what turnip tastes like. Your wife chews on something invisible, a ghost of food, a memory in the mouth. Your uncle drinks straight from the pot. No one stops him. It's his birthday. Maybe. Who's counting? Someone lights the candle stub. It flickers, not brightly, just insistently, like it knows its time is limited but wants to be polite about it. The baby starts fussing. Again, you bounce her with one arm while drinking with the other. Your arms ache, not from weight, from persistence. You ask your cousin, is this the last of it? He shrugs. He says, we still have shoe leather. Then adds, mostly dry. You nod. Everyone nods. Boiled boots tomorrow. Again. The dog is still gone. Probably joined another family. Smarter one. With soup that contains nouns, your grandmother clears her throat, then recites the family grace. Better than yesterday. Everyone repeats it. Not in unison, just in resignation. The pot is empty. The bowls are empty. You are not. You're full of something else. Salt, maybe, or silence. Someone starts crying. It's unclear who. Doesn't matter. The baby stops. Someone else starts. You all sit there a little longer, not to rest, but because standing means moving, and moving means facing what comes next. The cold. Dinner ends. No clearing of dishes. No laughter. No second helpings. Just shared heat, quiet chewing, and the collective realization. That wasn't dinner. That was survival, disguised as a ritual. You lie down, not in a bed, not on a mattress, on hay, old hay, damp hay, hay that smells like goat, mildew, and decisions made in haste. There are no blankets left. They're already in use, wrapped around people who got there first. So you settle for a coat, not yours, stolen from a cousin. You'll apologize in the spring, if either of you makes it that far. Someone coughs. It begins, the evening concert. One deep, one shallow, one wet, with something behind it, a little rattling encore. You turn over. The straw pokes your spine like it holds a grudge. You try the other side. Now your ribs are offended. Your wife mumbles something. You think it's a prayer. You think it's about the baby. You think she's already asleep. Hard to tell anymore. The baby wheezes, not dangerously, just constantly, like a kettle that never boils. Your uncle is snoring. At least you hope it's snoring. Could also be, well, you'll check in the morning. The wind slips through the cracks in the wall. It finds you. It always finds you. It hugs your ankles, climbs your spine, and breathes into your ear. You are replaceable. You shift again. Your back cracks. Your neck pops. The straw sighs. Someone to your left mutters in their sleep. Something about bread. You pretend you didn't hear it, because dreams like that are dangerous. Your stomach grumbles. Your neighbor's stomach answers. A duet of hunger, soft and awkward. The candle burns out. Darkness takes the room like a blanket no one asked for. It muffles breath. It magnifies coughs. It makes every sniffle sound like the start of an ending. You try to sleep, not dream, not rest. Just forget. Temporarily. Your thoughts race. What if the crops fail again? What if the priest was right? What if the baby doesn't make it through the next frost? What if the bucket tips again? You push those away. You focus on the hay, the itchy, soggy, silently judging hay. Eventually, your eyes close, not because you're safe, not because you're warm, but because exhaustion wins. And for a few hours, you lie still, not sleeping, not thinking, just surviving. Inside a room of bodies, breath, and coughs that sound older than time. This is sleep in the year of not enough. Not peaceful, not gentle, just a pause, so the coughing can regroup before sunrise. You are almost asleep almost. Your body has gone limp. Your thoughts have slowed into that sweet, dumb fog of near rest. But then, scratch, scratch, scratch. You freeze, because you know that sound. Everyone knows that sound. It's not wind. It's not the baby. It's not the priest come to apologize for hoarding bread. Unlikely. It's them. The night shift. The rats. They've come again. They always do. You hear them in the rafters first, little feet pattering like a tiny malicious army. One skitters across a beam. Another lands, plop, into the straw nearby. Someone whispers, "Don't move." No one was planning to. You feel one on your leg, just passing through. Nothing personal. You clench every muscle, like that'll hide you. You breathe through your mouth, because breathing through your nose means smelling everything the rat just stepped in. The baby stirs. A rat squeaks. For a moment, you fear a diplomatic incident. But the rat moves on, back to the corner where the bucket lives. Of course, you listen as the rats hold what sounds like a summit meeting around the bucket. They take turns. They squeal. One of them knocks something over. Again. Someone mutters a prayer. Someone else mutters, "Shut up." Your grandmother, eyes still closed, says flatly, "They eat the soft parts first." No one asks what that means. Everyone already knows. You feel something at your head. You open your eyes slowly. A pair of small, black, soulless ones stare back. The rat pauses. You pause. For one glorious, awful moment. You both contemplate each other's life choices. Then it turns, disinterested. You've been judged and found not delicious. You exhale. It's hard to feel insulted and relieved at the same time, but you manage. The rat scurries off. You hear it chew something. You pray it's the floor. Eventually, the noises fade. The chewing stops, the footsteps retreat, and the silence returns. Not peace, just a truce. You close your eyes again. Tomorrow, you'll set a trap. Maybe, if you find bait, or care enough. For now, you sleep. Not deeply, not safely. but long enough for morning to sneak in while the rats sleep off whatever unspeakable thing they just ate. And that's night. Shared breath, stifled coughs, and rodents who own more corners of your house than you do. Sleep well, if you can call it that. You wake up, not because you want to, not because you're rested, but because someone stopped coughing. And in this house, silence is suspicious. You sit up slowly. The straw beneath you is frozen to your back. You peel yourself off like a regrettable sticker. The air burns your nostrils, not with smoke, not with rot, with absence. It's so cold, even your thoughts have frostbite. You look around. Your cousin hasn't moved. He's curled up like laundry no one wants to fold. You call his name. He doesn't answer. You nudge him. Still nothing. You sigh. You don't cry. You're too dry to cry. You cover him with a shawl. Not out of ritual, just because there's nothing else to do. Your grandmother whispers, "One less mouth." No one disagrees. You shuffle to the door. It's stuck, frozen shut. You kick it, gently at first. Then with the force of 3 winters' worth of disappointment, it groans open. Like it too, didn't want to face today. Outside, the snow is waist deep. You used to call that fun. Now it's just a white grave with better marketing. You walk past the fields. What used to be fields. Now they're just shapes under snow. Shapes that once held hope. And barley. And your neighbor's plow. Now buried, possibly with a neighbor. You pass by a shed. The roof caved in. The goat gone. Probably eaten. Maybe by wolves. Maybe by you. You don't remember. You find a tree. You don't need firewood. You need something to do. So you break off branches. 1, 2. Your fingers bleed from the cold, but the red looks nice on the white. You carry the wood home. Your wife is awake. Her eyes are open, but empty. She's feeding the baby a broth made from what, exactly? You don't ask. The baby is alive. That's enough. You build a fire. It sputters, it wheezes, it lights. Everyone stares at it like it's a miracle, which, in this house, it is. You sit. No one speaks. No one counts the cousin. You eat. Barely. You chew something chewy. You don't ask. Your wife leans her head on your shoulder. She whispers, "Do you remember apples?" You nod. Not because you do, but because she needs you to. This is the longest winter. No warmth, no light, just days bleeding into nights, and bodies vanishing quietly like promises in a snowstorm. Night again. You almost don't notice anymore. Day and dark look the same now. Gray, colorless, eternal. The fire has gone out. No one moves to relight it. The wood is gone. The strength is gone. Even the arguments are gone. You lie beside your family, or what remains of it. Your wife is curled in on herself. The baby tucked under her chin like a secret, still breathing. For now, the others. You don't check. There's only so much not breathing you can carry in one winter. You wrap yourself in a cloak that smells like old soup and older memories. You close your eyes. The silence is too loud. There's no coughing tonight. You miss it. It was proof of life. Now, even the rats are quiet. Maybe they've moved on to warmer, richer houses. Or maybe they've run out of soft parts. The wind scratches the wall. You whisper, "Not tonight." It doesn't listen. You listen to your heartbeat. It's slow, like a drum that's forgotten the war. You feel your breath. It's shallow, like you're borrowing it from someone else. Your stomach growls, then gives up. Even hunger has grown tired of you. You try to remember spring, but spring feels like a myth told by people with teeth. You think of the priest, the bread, the sermon. You almost laugh. Almost, your daughter stirs. She murmurs in her sleep. Tomorrow we can find berries. You don't answer, but you pull her closer because she still dreams. And that's a kind of warmth you can't find in straw or stew. You close your eyes, not to rest, not to dream, just to pause the world for a while. You don't sleep, but you stop being awake, and that's the end of the day. No heroics, no escape, just a roof, a breath, and the hope that when morning comes, you will too. You were not a knight. You were not a king. You were not remembered. But you dug, you froze, you coughed, and you made it through the longest winter. That somehow is enough.